Rube, we're going to talk about a topic today that some people are going to want to hear and other people are going to roll their eyes. Playoffs.
Yeah, well, I was looking at the 538, and they have the Eagles at 22% chance of making the playoffs, where Washington and the Giants are 4% and 6%. They're looking at the whole schedule and what's coming up, and if you do that, I mean, the Eagles are pretty much where we thought they would be right now. And we talked from April when the schedule came out to September when the season started, how the first 6 weeks was a minefield and it was going to get easier. And you never know how that's going to go. I mean, teams end up being different than what you expected. But this year, it pretty much is lined up that way. And they have a chance to win some games here down in the second half of the season. So I think it's going to be an interesting second half.
Yeah, it should be. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan with Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. We hope you're still listening. We hope the mere mention of playoffs didn't scare you away. But we do want to talk about, what they need to do to at least stay in this race. And right now they are technically in the race. Ray Didinger will join us in just a little bit. Look back at the Lions game, look ahead to the Chargers, get his take on sort of the halfway point of the season. And then
I hate that. I hate that.
I hate it too.
I mean, the 8/17th point of the season, it's not the same.
It's not the same. And you're a stat guy and you're not a big, on pace all the time guy, but it's easy to do it when you're going to be real busy at halftime this week.
Yeah, that's our only chance for 20 minutes to kind of do halfway through the season. So it's going to be we'll have to write those stories at the beginning of halftime and take them down at the end of halftime. But
exactly,
when you look at the first 8 games that the Eagles played, the teams that beat them, all right, the Niners are 3-4, the Cowboys are 6-1, the Buccaneers are 6-2, the Raiders are 5-2, the Chiefs are 4-4. They've also been in the last 2 Super Bowls, so they're kind of in a different league there. I mean, they've got issues, but they're better than a 4-4 team. And then you look at the next 9 weeks, and all right, the Chargers are 4-3, but they've lost their last 2. The Broncos are 4-4; they've lost 4 of their last 5. Saints are 5-2; they lost Jameis. And then it goes Giants 2-6, Jets 2-5, Washington 2-6, Giants 2-6, Washington 2-6. Now their next 8 opponents, and then you have Dallas, who by then, who knows who they'll even be playing. They could have something locked up at that point.
But they might be playing for positioning at that point.
They could be. Yeah, they could be. You don't know, but there's a chance they won't. But in any case, I mean, that stretch from the Giants, Jets, Washington, Giants, Washington. I mean, you're playing 5 teams that have a combined 10 wins right now. You're playing 5 teams that the Eagles have a better record than 5 games in a row.
Yeah.
So, look, I'm under no illusions that this team's going to – I still don't think they're going to make the playoffs or be a wild card team. But, I mean, the only team they play over the next 2 months that looks – imposing right now. I mean, I guess the Chargers and Saints don't have their quarterback. Broncos on the road it's never an easy game, but they're having real big issues. I mean, every game between now and the end of the season is winnable. Like there is no more Pat Mahomes or Tom Brady or Derek Carr or Dak until the end of the season. So I'm not saying they're going to do this, but they have a chance to win a bunch of games here down the stretch.
Yeah, and I get some people are not happy about hearing it because this team is 3-5, but the state of the NFC opens this up a little bit because there's an opportunity there. I mean, right now, if the season ended, a 4-4 team would be in the playoffs. So there is opportunity, and if you kind of go through, here's what we know right now: the teams we know are in the playoffs. The Packers are going to be in; they're 7-1. In the NFC North. They could lose a couple games here. We know the whole Aaron Rodgers fiasco, but they're still in a pretty good spot. Arizona 7-1. They're leading in the NFC West. Cowboys are 6-1 in the NFC East. The Bucks are 6-2 in the NFC South. The Rams are also 7-1. They're technically second in the West. So you figure the Rams or the Cardinals are going to win that division. So that's your 5th playoff team. Right now, the 6th playoff team is the Saints at 5-2, but they lost their quarterback. And the 7th team is the Panthers at 4-4, who the Eagles beat. So yeah, I mean, and then there are some other teams in the mix, like what are they? The Vikings are 3-4, the 49ers are 3-4, the Falcons are 3-4. Then right behind them are the Eagles at 3-5. It's right there.
Imagine if it comes down to tiebreaker between the Eagles and Panthers and they have a head-to-head win. I mean, stranger things have happened, and they have the opportunity here, and it's up to this coaching staff. I mean, honestly, I don't know anybody that figured the Eagles would be better than they are now. They're 3-5. Did anyone really think they'd be 4-4 after 8 games with a young quarterback and a new coaching staff and that schedule? I don't think so. So they're really right where we all thought. Now, I think the way they got there is
record-wise.
Record-wise,
they are.
But the fact that there were long stretches in a lot of those games, Cowboys, Chiefs, Buccaneers, and Raiders, where they weren't competitive, that's where the concern is. And I'm not disputing that. I share that concern. But if they can play, and again, I understand the Lions are the Lions, but if they can play that brand of football, they're going to win some games here. And some of these other teams aren't a whole lot better than Detroit. When you look at the Jets, you look at the Giants and Washington, teams that they play 5 games against. They could go 4-1 in those games. They could go 5-0. They could go 3-2, but they're going to have a chance to really rack up some wins there the second half of the year.
Yeah, want to go through the games real quick and kind of figure out what you think, because I think both of us said, I think I said 8 or 9 wins before the season, and I still think that's very much in play here. You look at the schedule, and it's fair. The Chargers game is not easy. That's a 4-3 team that they kind of need a win right now, the way they've played the last couple of weeks. But right now, that game looks a lot easier and more winnable than it did a few weeks ago.
I think they'll win one of these next 2 against the AFC. I think they'll win. I think they'll go 1-1 against the Chargers and Broncos.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that. And we're going to talk to Ray a little bit later about which way we're leaning in these next 2 games, but I think you'll figure it out soon. The Saints, it's a home game, and that defense is good. I mean, I give credit to Sean Payton for the way that they've kind of, it feels like, when it almost feels like the what Belichick did with New England, like they were a really defensive team, then they became an offensive team. They just kept finding ways. Like right now, that's what the Saints team is doing. Their offense clearly isn't what it used to be without Drew Brees. Now Michael Thomas is hurt. Jameis Winston's hurt. But that defense is really good. But because their offense is not great, and because they're without their quarterback, winnable.
Eagles never beat the Saints, but it is winnable. I'm going to give that an L right now.
Okay.
Just because I think their defense is so good. But
it is very good.
Then we go at Giants, at Jets. So we go up to the Bloomfield corridor, the North Jersey corridor, 2 weeks in a row. Giants, Jets. I mean, let's look at those 5 together, because to me,
think the Eagles just stay up there for the week.
I might stay in Florham Park again.
There you go.
But I think that really the season is going to come down to those 5, because even if you go 1-2 in the next 3, you have a real chance to win some of those games. I'm going to say they're going to go 4-1 in that group of 5 games.
Really?
I am. Yeah. So I'm going to say 4-1. So that'll Jets, okay. Giants, Jets, Washington, Giants, Washington.
Oh, you mean the end? Okay, I thought you meant the next 5 games.
No, I'm saying I think they're going to go 1-2 in the next 3, and then 4-1 in the next 5.
I got you. Yeah, that's
and that gets you to 8-8 going into Dallas, or Dallas here.
Mm-hmm. So that's and that might be enough.
It's possible. I did my week by week back in August before the season began, and I had pretty much what we're saying here. I had them going 9-8, and I think winning, I believe 7 of their last 9, something like that. The schedule seems to be playing out the way we thought it would.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm a broken record on that 49ers game. That one could end up being the killer because it was a game they should have won. I thought they should have won, and they let it go. Because if they win that game and they're sitting right now with one more win, that would make a big difference. And do you think it's so Washington and the Giants, obviously not good teams, but can they sweep those games? Or can they win 3 or 4 in those games? Because they're probably going to need to.
Yeah, they're going to need to. And then the Jets are in there, and the Jets just beat the Bengals. So, we'll see.
I have a feeling that Magic's going to run out before the Eagles play them.
You would think so. Yeah, I mean, they could. I'm thinking mathematically they'll lose one of them. They won't play. Well, there'll be one of them they won't play. They might be favored in all of them. I mean, who knows? Depending what happens the next 3. If they win 2 of the next 3 and they start clicking off wins against that stretch, they'll be favored in those games. So, especially the home ones. At Washington, I don't know, but that's a real opportunity to build up some momentum. And the whole key is getting to that stretch and still playing hard, still believing in yourself, and still feeling like you have something to play for. It's kind of like a beacon of light in the distance. Like if we can just get to that first Giants game like intact, with 4 wins, maybe 5 wins, but even get there with 4 wins and go on a run, we can make something of this season.
Yeah, and that's why it was so important. We kind of saw the schedule, and even though the Eagles say we're round 1 and all that crap, they knew they saw the schedule too, and they knew that they kind of had a buzzsaw earlier in the year, and it was on Nick Sirianni to keep the team together through that. And as long as they kept buying in and they weren't results oriented, as Jalen Hurts always likes to say, then yeah, if they still believe in themselves and they believe that if we keep doing what we're doing, the wins will come when they come. It's all right there for them. And if nothing else, it gives us something to care about in this last half of the season. There's nothing worse than being completely out of it like the Lions are right now. And you're just focused on draft pick. Because, look, I get some people are going to argue, no, they're better off losing and getting a draft pick. But are they? I mean, are they really? You want to win games. You want to put yourself in the playoff mix. I don't think any of us are thinking this is a Super Bowl team, or even maybe you don't even think they're a playoff team, but make it interesting. Put these young players that they have into high pressure situations, put the head coach and the new defensive coordinator and new coaching staff into these high pressure situations, fighting for a playoff spot. I think that matters more.
Yeah, there's no question. Plus, you have the Dolphins pick there. You have Indianapolis's pick, most likely. Now it's like really likely. So you can root for those picks to be worse. But for this pick, for this team, I think you get so much out of being in those high leverage situations. For this team to have big games, these young players to have big games, Jalen Hurts, the receivers, the defensive guys, to have big games late in the season, down the stretch, you can't replace that. That's such important experience. And it looks like they're going to have a chance most likely for that.
Yeah, just something to watch every Sunday is all we ask.
It's not much. We don't ask much, Dave.
Yeah.
Score big with the AAA Eagles MVP membership, along with the superb roadside assistance and discounts you've come to expect from AAA. Get exclusive Eagles-related perks. For all the details, visit AAA.com/Eagles.
All right, we're on the Eagle Eye podcast presented by Nissan with Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro, and now joining us, as he does every week, Ray Didinger. Ray, we hope you're doing well. Last week was fun. We got to see the Eagles execute a game plan, win a game in dominant fashion. What did you think?
It was fun. It was really fun. I thought, and I think we all thought that the Eagles would win the game, but I don't think any of us expected it to be quite like that. The Lions were winless, but they had shown a lot of fight in the games leading into this. They had only really been dominated in the one game, and that was by Cincinnati. And but last week the Eagles dominated them really for 60 minutes, and yeah, it was fun. And it was the defense got after the quarterback, and the Eagles ran the football. They did all the things the fans have been screaming for. So Now, can they do it 2 weeks in a row, and this time actually in front of the home fans? If they did, it would be a happy Sunday for all of us.
Well, how much stock do you put into what you saw Sunday? Well, do you think it was fluky just because it was the Lions, or do you think they maybe turned a little bit of a corner?
Well, the temptation is to say, oh, it was just the Lions. But, if you look back over the year, the Lions have been a fairly competitive team. And the Eagles really dominated, completely dominated them at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. And that wasn't a fluke. And I think there are lessons that you can take from this going forward. And, right now, the offensive line, if you let them run block, they can move people off the line of scrimmage. They certainly did last week. And the Chargers are a better team than the Lions. There's not much doubt about that. But one area of weakness for them is their run defense. Teams have been able to run on them pretty successfully all year. So I think if the Eagles took kind of the same approach on offense and, just turned that offensive line loose and got the quarterback under center and ran the football, I think that they could. I think they could control this game. I really do. It's there for them. I was looking at the Chargers a little bit this week. Last 2 times out, they haven't played well. They really got it handed to them in Baltimore by the Ravens. And then last week, they got the Patriots, came out to California, and it really kind of looked like to me that Belichick is in Herbert's head. That was the worst game that he had last year, and he looked like he was carrying that around with him this year. And Belichick did the usual stuff, mixed up his coverages, mixed up his blitzes, changed his fronts, and he really had Herbert off balance the whole game. Had 17 pressures, 3 sacks, and he never really got into the kind of rhythm that we've seen him in the past. So, I think this. I know the Eagles are underdogs, and I know they haven't won a game at home this year. But to me, if they take the same kind of formula they had last week into this game, I think I have a pretty good chance of winning.
Earlier this week, where we talked about, there were 2 big adjustments the Eagles made. One was on offense, they ran the ball, and on defense, they did a few different things, but they challenged. That was the kind of big takeaway from the defense. If you had to pick which side you have more faith in that they do it again this weekend, are you more confident that Nick Sirianni will run the ball, or are you more confident that Jonathan Gannon will start to mix things up and give a little bit more pressure?
I would probably say the offense. Because I think that one of the, and we talked about this last week, was one of the things that I thought lent itself to Gannon being more aggressive was when you looked at the tape of the Lions, they just don't throw the ball down the field at all. They don't even try to hit the big shot. So, we know that Gannon is all about not allowing the big play and not letting them throw the ball over your head and all that kind of stuff. Well, you knew going in, the Lions weren't even going to try to do that. They don't even think about doing that. So it was much easier for him to adopt an aggressive philosophy, rush the passer, play the corners up on the outside, do a lot of things that were very successful for them. Even though the Chargers aren't playing real good right now, you look at Justin Herbert and you look at these receivers, and they do represent a deep threat. This is a team that can put the ball down the field, likes to put the ball down the field. So if I were to guess which of the 2 sides of the ball is more likely to carry over last week's approach into this week, I would probably say the offense, because I think Gannon's going to be thinking in terms of, well, we better not allow the big play, and this week we're playing a big play quarterback.
You mentioned the D-line and the pressure they got on Jared Goff. If they could play like that, that's really the blueprint of how this team was built for the D-line. They're one of the highest paid D-lines in the league. They're the highest paid unit on the team, and the O-line is second. They've got Pro Bowlers, first-round picks. They should be, obviously they missed BG, but they really should be playing like that or close to like that every week, but they haven't. What did you see from the D-line Sunday? And we saw some different guys getting in the mix there. But what did you see that kind of was different from the way they pressured Goff?
Well,
and played the run.
Yeah, they did. They were really good. They were really good. I think that Edwards helped. I think Edwards gave them much better play at middle linebacker. He's certainly a bigger, more physical presence than Wilson was, and I think that helped a lot. But on the line, I was, it's sort of, I got a little heartened by seeing, Williams start to make some plays. I just, the coaches were so high on him during summer camp and during preseason. And they talked about how they, loved his speed and the ability that he can play inside and outside. And he was going to be a guy that was going to push for a lot of playing time this year. And, then the season started and it was sort of like, where did he go? He was getting a lot of snaps, but there wasn't much to show for it. This past week, he began to look like he was starting to get the feel of it. And I thought it was by far his best game. And Sweat, I think, for Sweat to be effective, he really has to play truly on the edge. When they push him inside, when they go to the 3-man line and he has to become more of an inside kind of player, he's not nearly as effective. You let him play on the outside shoulder of the offensive tackle where he can use his speed to kind of get up the field and bend. That's when he can be really effective. And last week, he was in that position a lot and took real advantage of it. And he's a guy that I think could have a big game in this one because Storm Norton is playing right tackle for the Chargers. And he was not supposed to be the starter. Brian Balaga, the guy that's a good, solid veteran tackle who played in Green Bay for many years, he was supposed to be the right tackle, but he's hurt. And they've been playing with Norton most of the year, and he's just not very good. In fact, the game when Parsons, the rookie from Dallas, when they made him a defensive lineman, they lined him up on Norton all day, and that was the game when Parsons had the real big game for the Cowboys. But Norton's had trouble with just about everybody, and unless they move some people around, it looks like he's going to be the guy blocking Sweat this week. So if the Eagles continue to use Sweat the way they used him against the Lions, I think Sweat's in position to maybe have another big game.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you're right. This Chargers team, they do have some weapons, though. They have the receivers. They have a good quarterback. They have Eckler coming out of the backfield. If you're the Eagles defense, you mentioned Gannon will probably try to limit big plays. But what do you think the key is going to be for them to slow them down?
Pressure on the passer. That's when you saw the Ravens and the Patriots, that's what they did. They got a lot of pressure on Herbert. And, the line's not doing a very good job of protecting. The rookie left tackle's playing okay. The center's actually playing pretty good. But the guards, not so much. And the right tackle's been a disaster. And last week, for sure, he was – you never got the feeling watching Herbert that he was anywhere – he wasn't comfortable at all. He never really found a rhythm. A couple of good balls he threw were dropped. And I know these receivers are better than that, but they had a couple of big drops. It looked like just nothing was clicking offensively. And I think it really starts with pressure on the quarterback. I think that's it because Herbert's I really liked him coming out. I thought he was going to be, to me, he looked like a guy that had the makings of being a franchise quarterback. And I still think he will be. But right now, offensively, they just don't seem to have it together. And it doesn't look like he's really found his rhythm with Lombardi, the new offensive coordinator. It looks to me like they're still trying to figure out exactly what they want to do on offense. They do have some weapons. They do have some players, but right now they don't seem to be playing with much rhythm or much confidence.
Hey, Ray, the trade deadline came and went. Fletcher Cox is still here. What do you make of his season, where he is as a player at 30 years old in his, 10th NFL season? Is he still – he's clearly not the player he was when he made 6 straight Pro Bowls. How far has he come down to you, and what do you think he has left?
Clearly, I think you described it well, Reuben. He's a good player, but he's not a dominating player. He's not the guy that he was 4 years ago. He's not playing the way he played Super Bowl year or the year before that, when he was really one of the best interior linemen in the league. He's not that now. He's a guy that teams can feel pretty comfortable trying to block one-on-one. He no longer really commands the double the way he once did. I think that he was the point that he made after the Las Vegas game about how he didn't feel like he was being utilized, the defenses that were being called weren't helping his situation. And I agree with that. I think he was right about that. But that wasn't the whole problem. I mean, the fact is he's just not that player anymore. He can still play good, but I don't think you're going to see him play great. And I didn't really expect them to trade him. I just didn't know that his contract being what it was, I just didn't know that it would be possible for another team to take it on. If I'd been the Eagles, yeah, I would have shopped them and seen what I would have been offered. But that contract made it very, very difficult to move him.
Yeah, I guess now right. I hate the 17-game schedule because we don't have a halfway point. Well, we do, but it's going to come at halftime. So I guess this is a good time as any to ask you about Jalen Hurts and what you've seen from him the first 8 games of the season. And, the big question this year is, can he be the guy going forward? Are we close to an answer yet?
I guess each individual person can view it differently. I'm not. I need to see more. That's why when after this last week, there was some people talking about maybe they need to go to Minshew. It's just no, you don't need to go to Gardner Minshew. I think one thing we can safely say is he is not the long-term answer. You have to find out if Jalen Hurts is. And so he's got to play this. If he can stay healthy, he's got to take every snap possible the rest of the year. I think he really does. Because by the time this year is over, you have to have a very clear idea of whether you can confidently go forward with him as your quarterback or accept the fact that, no, he's not going to be that guy. And we need to go look for whoever that guy is. I need to see more. I mean, he does some things very well. He can really move around. He can really create plays, but he still has a tendency to want to bolt out of the pocket. If the first read isn't there, he takes off too quickly. He can't seem to shake that habit. He has it. He can't seem to shake it, but he has to. And the other thing is, again, it's the accuracy issue. Even when he throws the ball, even when he completes passes, he doesn't put the ball in places generally. Sometimes, yes, but not generally, consistently in a spot where a receiver can make a catch and get a lot of yards after the catch. And I really worry sometimes, some of the balls he's thrown to Devontae Smith, the positions that he's put him in, trying to extend back or stop or reach. You're talking about a 170-pound receiver. I worry that he's going to get him hurt at one time this year. Somewhere along the line, he's going to throw one of those balls and hang him out to dry, and you're going to wind up getting a real valuable player injured. I worry about that. So the accuracy issue, which we've been talking about really from last year into this year, to me still remains the one great unanswered question. Can he become that really repetitively accurate quarterback that you need to win in the National Football League? Right now, I don't see that. But I'm hoping over the second half of the season, we'll either see it or we won't see it, and then we'll know it's time to move on.
Yeah, that's the key. You just want an answer. You just don't want to be in that middle ground where you think, well, maybe he could be. I mean, it seems like that's the one area where you want to try to avoid. I agree with you. I think he needs the time to develop, and but it is scary because some of the things we talk about with him are the things we talk about with him. They haven't changed, and I don't know if I've seen the improvement that I kind of expected to see 8 games in.
They've changed, but not enough to me. Yeah. Like he's gotten better, but not incrementally as I anticipated.
Yeah, I thought that last week, because of the way the game evolved and because the Eagles were able to run it as well as they ran it, his protection was actually quite good. I mean, there were several plays there where he held the ball, and looked pretty good. I mean, there were a couple play actions because the Lions had to respect the fact that, hey, they could run it. The play action worked like a true play action, and he got really good depth, and the receivers got open, and he settled in the pocket, threw the ball nicely across the middle. That's one of the reasons why I really hope. Look, I don't know that we're going to see another game this year where they're going to run it 46 times. If I were a betting man, I would say probably not. But some degree of commitment to the run, some willingness to run and create some semblance of balance in the offense could only help this kid. I mean, it could only help him to be functioning within a really balanced offense. I mean, we all talked about the stat last week that he had 83% of the offense was Jalen Hurts generated between run and pass. I mean, you're asking way too much of a young quarterback to ask him to carry that much of the load. Build a complete offense. Use the offensive line, lean on the offensive line and run it, and let him work play action off of that. And I think we can get a better idea of exactly what his ceiling is as a quarterback.
So true. I mean, when you're running the ball 3 times in a game, I don't know how you learn anything about the quarterback because he's being put in an impossible situation.
Yeah, we've seen that. Rube was seeing that way too often, and I just don't think they're doing him any favors. They really, and they have the wherewithal between the offensive line and the backs that they have, even without Sanders, that they can run the ball. I mean, they really can, and they have to do it. I know it's an endless topic of conversation, and whenever you start talking about running the ball, the other side of the argument that people say, it's not that the NFL's not about that anymore. You guys are still living in the days of Lombardi. You want to run on every play. No, I never said I want to run on every play. What I'm saying is run it enough that you have some balance in your offense. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I know you're never going to get back to the days of Lombardi and Hallis. I mean, the NFL has moved on beyond that for sure. We're never going back. But the idea of, if you look around the league, you look at the teams that are winning, they're running the ball. I mean, Baltimore runs it. Arizona runs it. Dallas runs it a ton. I mean, teams that are winning in the league have a real strong running component to their offense. And I think that the Eagles have the personnel here and they have the line here that they could do the same thing. They just need to commit to it.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned Baltimore there because I'm not comparing Jalen to Lamar Jackson. That would be unfair to both of them. But there was a pretty clear blueprint of like when you have this dual threat quarterback, what your offense needs to be or what would help that type of quarterback out. And to me, this offense, it feels disjointed between Sirianni and Hurts. To me, it almost feels like it's that Colts offense with some RPOs thrown in. It's like they almost went halfway into creating an offense around Hurts. And I don't know if that's enough to really get as much out of him as you need to.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that Baltimore's offensive coordinator, Greg Roman, has done a really good job of designing an offense that just works. I mean, it incorporates all the different elements of that group. And, Jackson is a uniquely talented player. I mean, he's got skills unlike the other quarterbacks. Hurts is really good, but Jackson's in another realm altogether. But Roman makes it all kind of work as a complete picture. I mean, they run it just enough. They run some RPO stuff, but he also works from the pocket. I mean, they've had time to put all those pieces together, and Roman has done a really good job with it. And he calls a really good game. I mean, he gets his guys in a rhythm. He gets Jackson in a rhythm. And they seem to have a very good, clear picture going into every week's game of, okay, this is exactly what we're going to do. And they come out and they execute it. And that's why they're really good at it. And that's been their personality now, really, ever since they committed to Jackson at quarterback. And he gets the bulk of the credit, and he's the MVP, and he deserves all that. But I think Greg Roman does a really good job week in and week out of scheming that offense. They're really good.
All right, Ray, before we let you go, this game on Sunday, which way are you leaning here?
I think Ray's leaning Eagles. I can sense it.
I am, Rube. I am. Maybe I'm too influenced by what I saw of the Chargers in the last 2 games. They just don't look that good. I think, I know we've talked all year about, about that they're a contender and that, they're going to go to the play. I think they're a little overrated, to be honest with you. I mean, they got the win at Arrowhead earlier this season, and everybody got all excited that this was a big statement game, that they were now the power. And now we found out that the Chiefs aren't that good. So, you look back at that win and, okay, I don't know if it told me as much as I thought it had told me. And then, the Ravens just had their way with them. And then last week, the Patriots made them sort of stumble and fumble all over the place. And Herbert looks very out of sync. I mean, I've seen him, and listen, he could come out there Sunday, and settle in and be the same guy that threw the 31 touchdown passes last year, and the Eagles are in trouble. But right now, he looks like he's the protection or the lack of protection is really bothering him. He's not playing well right now. And I don't know. I mean, the Eagles have to win a game at home sometime, don't they? I mean, they're not going to go the I have covered Eagles teams that went a whole season without winning at home. 1972. I still remember they went a whole season and didn't win at home. I don't think this is going to be a year like that. We know they're going to win a game at home. And I think they're going to win Sunday. I really do. If they stick to not the entire same formula exactly, but if they come out and they run the ball enough, and they can get some pressure on the quarterback, I think that they can win this game. So I'm picking the Eagles probably, like 28-21, something like that.
I'm just glad we're not all picking because I think I'm leaning Chargers. So I'm just glad we're going to finally, the three of us have kind of been in lockstep all year, and we're at the top of our predictions leaderboard, but something needs to give here. So I'm glad that we're going to at least one.
Yeah, we're all 7-1. I'm leaning Chargers.
Oh man, this means that should be good news for you, Ray. This could mean
sole possession,
first place on your own. Yeah.
I think you guys are on more solid footing than I am. I mean, if you just look at the two teams, the Chargers are better. And they are a team that've lost 2 in a row. So this is a big game for them. I mean, they don't want to lose 3 in a row to this team. And they are thinking playoffs, and they do have big plans. So
you're talking yourself out of it.
Yeah, I kind of am. But no, I'm not going to do that. I really do have a feeling that the Eagles, I think it's winnable. Let's put it that way. I think it's winnable. So on that basis, I'm going to go with the Eagles to pull this one off. If you guys want to go Chargers, you're probably smarter going that way. But I'm just going to pick one, take one for the home team this week.
It's a good pick.
You got to go with your gut. There's nothing worse than going against your gut and then you were wrong. That's the worst.
Got to go with your gut.
Yeah.
No, always go with your first instinct. Yeah. Always go with your first instinct. The more you think about it and the more you talk yourself, you wind up, like you said, talking yourself out of it. My first feeling this week after watching the Chargers was, I think the Eagles are going to beat them. So I'm going to stay with that.
Yeah, I like it. All right, Ray, we'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys, I'll talk to you then. See you.
All right, Ray. Hey, at Nissan, we just made your choice for a new car an easier one than ever with our most exciting and fuel-efficient lineup. The choice is yours. Get great offers across our full line. Shop your local Nissan store today at nissanusa.com.
All right, thank you to Ray. I thought you were right, Reuben. I thought he was about to talk himself out of that. He can't do it. I've done that before, and there's no worse feeling than talking yourself out of the pick that came to you first and what you were thinking in your gut, only to then lose that week. You feel like an idiot. So, if you have a feeling on something, you got to go with it.
Yeah, and that's why I have no second guesses about my 49ers pick. I thought they'd win the game. If I had to do it over, I'd pick them again. I was just wrong, but I'd rather be wrong believing in my pick than be right and be wishy-washy about it.
Yeah, if you remember me in that 49ers week, I was leaning 49ers all week, and I talked myself into the Eagles. And ultimately, I was okay with the pick because I thought they played well enough to win, but should have stuck with it. Learn a lesson there. So thanks to Ray. We'll see. It is fun, though. Finally, there's going to be some separation at the top of our predictions. I think we're all one loss right now. So if we have different picks, unless they tie, in which case, let's not get into that.
Somebody's gonna be 8-1.
Yeah, that's exciting. All right, so we want to talk about the defensive backs because defensive backs make up a ridiculous percentage of this roster right now. But most of them are corners. I want to talk about them in a second, but the safety position is interesting right now because Anthony Harris has missed the last couple games. I'm watching him out there at practice today. He's got casts on both hands around his thumbs. So when they're running through drills and they fire the ball at them, he's the only one they don't throw the ball to because they don't, there's no reason to. I wonder if a healthy Marcus Epps isn't better than an injured Anthony Harris.
Yeah, I think we were walking back from practice today and had that conversation. And you said, I think Epps might be as good as Anthony Harris. And I said, I think he might be a little better. And we kind of looked at each other and he's been really solid. And he's always in the right place. I don't know how much higher his ceiling is. I don't know how much better he'll get. He's got a background in Gannon's defense, which helps him. and helped him kind of acclimate here. But he's in the right place. He's making the plays, and he's doing what he's been asked to do. And honestly, and I don't know when Anthony Harris will be totally healthy. It sure doesn't look like it's anytime soon, considering what's on his hands. But I might think long and hard about keeping Epsy out there for a bit.
Yeah, and I even think he's not a Pro Bowler. I don't think any of us are saying that, but he's played well enough that if it's not Harris, it still needs to be him. Kayvon is back now from the shoulder injury. He played some snaps. A lot of guys played some snaps in that game because it got out of hand. And I think I was really high on Kayvon, and I haven't really – it's not like I think I was wrong, but he got hurt. He lost his chance. He was starting before he got hurt. And in the meantime, Epps has played all right. So, yeah, I wonder if they wouldn't just stick with him.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of different combinations because Rodney didn't play early. Epps had a concussion in the opener. He was out. So there's been a lot of moving pieces and stuff. I think Rodney's played pretty well the last couple of weeks. I thought it took him a little bit, understandably. It was a long rehab. But he's been pretty good, I think, over I'd say the last couple of games. And I think he and Epps are kind of working well together. I would keep them together. I think that makes the most sense at this point.
Yeah, it's funny. Their secondary, for how long we've talked about this secondary being not that great, they're pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny to say that considering the Eagles are on pace to break the NFL record for highest opposing completion percentage. But I don't even blame them.
Well, I mean, when the safeties are playing across the bridge, it's hard to.
Yeah, I mean, because so many of those 74.3% of those passes are uncontested underneath stuff in the middle of the field. And you're not going to blame Darius Slay or Steve Nelson or anybody for those. So, yeah, I think really everybody – I think what they need is to play together more because they haven't really – these four guys, and you throw Avante in there who's been great. They just need to play together. I think they have a chance to be okay.
Yeah. What do you make of all these young cornerbacks? The Eagles, we talked about Kerry Vincent earlier this week. They traded for him. They have 5 cornerbacks who are 23 or younger who have all arrived here since the draft or during the draft and then since.
And I think they're all exactly 23, right? I think all 5 of them are 23.
No, one of them's 22.
Oh, yeah? Zach McPherson, 22. But in any case, I understand what they're doing. Steve Nelson's on a 1-year deal. Slay's 30. I think he's playing really well. But you need young guys who can run to play cornerback. Avante's not signed beyond this year, and hopefully they sign him. It would make sense. It seems like the kind of thing they would do. But I understand what Howie's doing here. He wants to see these guys really mainly in practice. They're all young. They're all fast. None of them really has a pedigree in the NFL. So bring them in, see how they go, try to sort them out. It's a big chunk of the roster to have all these kind of backup cornerbacks who probably aren't going to play very much.
Unless there's an injury.
Unless there's an injury, I don't know how you get them on the field. I don't know how you look at them other than practice. So, I like it as long as you're not going so thin at another position that it's handicapping you. But if you can get one of these guys to be a player, whether it's Zach McPherson or Vincent, who they got the other day from the Broncos, or whoever it is, Josiah Scott, whoever it is, you get one starter there, it was worth it.
Yeah, and here are the names for those who don't follow the roster super closely. Zach McPherson, who they drafted in the 4th round. Josiah Scott, who was a 4th rounder last year, they traded for in May. Mac McCain, the only undrafted player of this group, he was claimed off the when the Broncos released him in September. Tay Gowan, who came back in the Zach Ertz trade, he was a 6th rounder this year in Arizona, and then Kerry Vincent Jr. drafted in the 7th round this year, another Broncos player the Eagles traded for on Tuesday. So of these 5 players, 4 of them were draft picks, day 3 draft picks, but draft picks, 1 undrafted. But it is an interesting strategy. It's like, it's almost just a numbers game here. Just get all these young guys with traits And if one of them works out, great.
Yeah, exactly. It's
especially
a luxury
at a position they've really struggled to draft.
And I think that's the key there. Yeah, I mean they haven't drafted well at the positions in 20 years since Lito and Sheldon. And Avante's, I mean, Avante in the 4th round is a really good pick. But as far as outside corners, they just have not done it. So
I mean, Avante's the best one since Lito and Sheldon.
Yeah, he really is.
I mean, Boykin had that 1 year.
Yeah, and he was hurt. And he had a very short career, injuries. Jordan Poyer ended up being a really good player. He was kind of a safety corner, not here, obviously.
But there's a lot. I mean, the Curtis Marsh, Eric Rowe, the names. It's been bad. Yeah,
Matt Ware was the 3rd round pick. Yeah. Shandon Sullivan was here.
Right? Well, he's actually good.
Yeah, he is good, but he's not here. That's so
Rasul and Sidney, obviously. Yeah, Rasul Douglas and Sidney Jones.
I get it. That's for anyone who doesn't know who they are. We had a guy complain because I made a reference to Sidney in the 2nd round, and somebody's like, "Oh, we don't know who Sidney. We don't know who that is. We don't know who Sidney is. Why don't you explain yourself?" So I got to remember that. Like if I mentioned Donovan, I say Donovan McNabb, the Eagles' 1st round pick in 1999. But yeah, so the good ones have ended up somewhere else, and the bad ones have ended up here pretty much. And they've had to cobble together with veterans, and that's what you see now with Slay and Nelson. The problem with that is you can't really build long-term around those kind of guys. So you need young guys, and maybe they find one out of this group. I was really hoping you wouldn't ask me which out of these I'm the highest on, because we just haven't seen them. We just don't know. This is the kind of thing that you let it sort itself out in training camp.
I know about some of them from the draft, but not well. I mean, I knew about Kerry Vincent just because he played at a big school. I'd heard of Tay Gowan, but he looks the part. He's the biggest of the bunch. He's like 6'1". He looks like a prototypical outside corner. Josiah Scott's the clear, the inside nickel corner. His nickname is the Gnat, which is a perfect nickname for a nickel corner.
Right.
But if they can't re-sign Avante, he's probably your nickel next year.
I think they'll re-sign Avante.
I do too. But if they don't.
And Vincent's intriguing just because he ran a 4.33 at his pro day, and he was a track star and all that. So he's got the wheels, but it's a long way from being fast to being an NFL cornerback. So we'll see.
Yeah. And McPherson, we really liked what we saw from him, at least for part of training.
Early, yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's something there, but we also haven't seen him on the field. And then, Jonathan Gannon saying we're not a dime defense. They've run a little bit of dime here and there, but you'd think, well, he's probably the next guy on the field in dime, and why isn't he getting that chance? Is he the reason they're not really a dime defense? That was a thought in my mind.
They played some dime Sunday in Detroit.
They did. And they have played some actually since Gannon said that here and there.
Yeah.
Anything else? Oh, we didn't have it on our budget here, but Eric Wilson got released.
Yeah. So much for Eric Wilson. He's like this year's Zach Brown.
There's been so many of these guys at linebacker. They just keep trying the bargain bin, and they haven't hit. I mean, it goes back years.
Yeah.
Years.
Yeah.
The Zach Brown, Corey Nelson, Paul Warlow, Jatavis Brown. You can throw in Stephen Tulloch, who came here for a year. Different. He had a bigger body of work, but there have been all these guys they've brought in at the linebacker position just haven't worked. Yeah.
And you'd like to say it's because they're so high and they're young guys, but I don't think that's
what they're saying.
That's what they're saying. That's not the case.
And maybe in the long term, it ends up being a good thing. If you're an optimist, you can look at it that way, because it's going to give guys like Davion Taylor and even TJ Edwards, maybe Sean Bradley at some point, a chance to play. Whereas, if Wilson plays average, he probably doesn't lose playing time, he doesn't get cut, and then you're stuck with an average linebacker instead of seeing your young guys. But at least he made it easy on him.
Yeah, he sure did. He was awful. And I'd sure rather cut him than Sean Bradley, who has really shown up on special teams. And, he's made a couple plays, has not played very much on defense, but he's made a couple plays when he's been out there. And kind of a guy to keep an eye on long term, and hope he gets better.
I'm really excited to watch Davion over these last 9 games.
Yeah, and I think Davion and TJ Edwards. I mean, look, TJ Edwards is not going to be. He's not your long-term answer, but he's been playing better than Alex Singleton, so he deserves to be out there. I don't want to get carried away with I mean, he's ultimately undrafted for a reason, but he's given a great effort, and he's been tackling better than Singleton, which is surprising because he's been in better position in coverage. Neither one of them's a great cover backer, but I like the fact that at least there's that accountability. Well, you know what? Alex Singleton just is not playing well this year. We're going to get somebody else in there. That's good to see.
Yeah, and with Davion, I think it's important for fans to remember there are going to be some bad moments. He's really raw, and now he's kind of learning on the job. So don't go too far one way or the other. If he has a good play, don't think he's going to the Pro Bowl. If he has a bad one, don't think he stinks, because he's still got a long way to go. But I'm just glad that he's going to get a chance to get those reps. I really don't think he can get better without playing.
Yeah, that's true for most guys. It's important to just maintain an even keel. That's my philosophy. Don't get too high, don't get too low, don't let the mistakes get you too down, but don't get carried away with the good plays. That's the way I try to live my life, Dave.
Yeah, with that cliche, I'll remind you to please go ahead and rate, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. Any final words?
No, looking forward to the game Sunday. We'll see you guys after Eagles Chargers.
Yeah, sounds good. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. Reuben, Frank, Dave, Zangaro. We'll talk to you after the game.